At what point does Israel maintain the moral high ground to be doing what it's doing, given the mass devastation on civilian life and in particular women and children?
I mean, I think that when it comes to casualty count, that's not an accurate basis to determine the morality of an issue. It's one factor of many, but the total casualty count isn't what makes something just or unjust on either side, quite frankly. That being said, obviously, Rafah is a very complicated operation. There are a lot of civilians there. That is why Israel has worked on developing plans. It is why they issued evacuation notices to over 100,000 Palestinians. Now, unfortunately, we're dealing with terrorist groups, terrorist organizations, including a lot of senior leadership that the IDF knows is in Rafah. We have intelligence that there were or are hostages inside of Rafah. That is why Israel needs to operate. And I want to ask a question, actually, myself, which is, given the fact that Israel has proposed multiple ceasefire offers, Israel has compromised even when Hamas changed the goalposts. That's according to U.S. officials, not Israeli. Even after that, Israel was willing to agree to a ceasefire deal. We were willing to agree to less hostages than were initially proposed, than we initially asked for, in multiple versions that have gone back and forth between Hamas and the negotiation teams and Israel. Then they changed the goalposts. Then they're talking about releasing 33 hostages. Israel said, okay, we'll do it. After that, Hamas said no. Same day, they do a PR stunt and release a statement that they actually approved a ceasefire offer that no one else had seen. This is malicious propaganda. This is exactly the type of tactics that we're seeing from this terrorist organization from day one. It's dishonest, and it puts Palestinian civilians in danger. And what we've seen on the ground in the past few days also supports that argument. We've seen Hamas fire from humanitarian zones. We've seen them fire rockets at their own humanitarian crossing. And something very important to remember, that the U.S. is talking a tough game right now towards Israel, but the U.S. has been developing a port off of the Gaza coast in order to provide aid to the Palestinians. And Hamas fired rockets at their own humanitarian port that the U.S. is building. This happened in recent days. So we are talking about an organization that actively wants more Palestinian civilians to die, whereas Israel is doing all they can to target only the terrorists. Yes, wars have consequences, and there is going to be bloodshed in Rafah, but we have no other alternative. If Hamas won't agree to a ceasefire offer that we are proposing, that we are still willing to negotiate, we sent a team to Cairo. It was Hamas who left the negotiations. If they won't release our hostages, we as a country have to do everything in our power to be able to release them. That's our last hope. We can't sit on our hands and do nothing. They still have over 100 hostages being held in the Gaza Strip.